again. I'm so glad you could join me. Today, I'm going to be talking about every carnivore's favorite meat product and every vegetarian's gateway to meat. All right, so you can probably guess what that is by now, right? You've got it. Bacon. Okay. So I can already smell it. It's great. I have this cooking on low heat right now, just to get it to simmer. But before we begin talking about the cooking process, we want to talk about what bacon is. What is it? Yeah, okay, I'll explain it to you, okay? This is known as, you can call it a lipid. And what's a lipid? It is something that contains fatty acids or derivatives, which would be insoluble in water. And that could be anything from waxes to sterols to animal fat to vegetable oils. Today, obviously, we're talking about the animal fat portion, and it is composed of fatty acids and free fatty acids. But what makes a fat different from something like an oil? You don't know the answer? Well, good, because I'm going to tell you. All right, so a fat and an oil are completely different, although they both are known as triglycerides and lipids. But a fat, as you can obviously see in this pan that I'm cooking right now, is more solid at room temperature, and an oil is already liquid. So what makes them different is the free fatty acid content. Now, a fat is going to have more free fatty acids than an oil. Now, this is going to give it a more unstable product. And what makes a fat compared to an oil is also the smoke point and the melting point. Now, this is still solid. An oil is already liquid. Its melting point has already been reached. In a saturated fat, the melting point is going to be higher than that of an oil. And also, the free fatty acids are going to be higher than that of an oil. And the smoke point is going to be lower than an oil. A smoke point for regular vegetable oil is going to be something around 420, a refined olive oil. Now, for a saturated fat, such as an animal fat like this could be 375. Now, bacon is composed of 40% saturated fat, but also the 50% unsaturated fat, which gives it this more of a stable structure, but also is going to give it that solid fatty appearance to it, which is the white streaks that we have. Now, I'm cooking the bacon up right now, poorly, because I think I'm starting to burn it, but it's fine. It is, as you notice, there is liquid starting to turn at the bottom of the pan. I don't know if you can see that from here. We have liquid. This is the melting point and the smoke point have both, I would say, been reached at this point. Now, this is the saturated fat turning from a solid to a liquid state due to the free fatty acids, the breaking down of the structure, the less stable it is. And it's also going to be water, which is why we have the sizzling taking place, because that water is going to be evaporating. Now, after this is finished cooking, you're going to notice fewer fatty acid streaks. It's going to be crunchier, hopefully, because we're getting rid of that fat that's going to hold a ton of the moisture. And crunchy bacon's always better bacon. And then we will drain off that liquid that's left over, the fat. And after I let that sit for a little bit in the refrigerator, we're going to come back and talk about it, what we can use it for, why it happened. Why does a saturated fat have a higher melting point? Well, the characteristics that give it this higher melting point is the length of the chain. The longer the chain it is, the longer it's going to take to melt. Also, the amount of trans fats that it has in it is going to make it have a higher melting point. Now, bacon already has naturally very little trans fat in it, but it still does have trans fat to give it that melting point. And also, how saturated it is. Now this is going to be pretty saturated because it is animal fat, which holds a lot of saturated fat. Most animal fats are going to hold cholesterol, and plant oils don't. So this is going to give it that higher melting point as well. And vegetable oils obviously are not going to be saturated as much because of the bend in the carbon chain due to the double-double bonds, which is making it the oil and not a saturated fat. Alright, so I'm going to finish cooking this, and then we'll come back and talk about what's going on and what happened. As you can see here, you can probably see a little bit of that grease draining off. I have a lot of liquid in my pan right now. I could show you, I would. There you go. Alright, yum. You can see it, but I can smell it. Sorry. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, real quick, we're back before we stick our liquid fat or oil now into the fridge to watch and see what happens. We have our bacon, which is completely cooked, and then we also have everything left over. Yum. All right. So in case you're unaware of what a triglyceride is, what's in lipids and everything, they are 3 fatty acids bound to that glycerol backbone. Okay, so they're connected. Bacon, saturated fats, are composed of those triglycerides and the free fatty acids. So we have both of those taking place in here. What we have drained off in here right now is all of the fat, the triglycerides, the free fatty acids, saturated fat, the monounsaturated fats. And as you can see, the bacon is a lot smaller than it was when we started out. It's a lot crunchier because it has less fat in it. I also have it laying on a paper towel to absorb that extra fat. Less water. So we'll be back here again shortly. I'm going to stick this in the fridge and we're going to see what happens. All right, we're back. Okay, about 40 minutes have gone by. I've pulled this out of the fridge. It is no longer liquid, as you can tell. It is more of a solid structure now. This is known as crystallization, what took place. This is lard, since this is from uncured bacon. If this were a cured product that we used, it would have been known as like rendering the fat, pulling it out. The lard that we have here is more of an off color, the brown, because we cooked it on a high heat, so it's still going to hold a lot of the impurities. If it were on a low heat, slow cooked, it would have been a more snowy white color. So now this is going to be a lot stronger in flavor compared to the white color we would have had if it were cooked on a low heat. But it can be used for frying, like a chicken, since it has such a high, since it's going to have a strong flavor, it's going to not be good in a pastry or a delicate pastry, but it would make it fluffy and light and airy because of the fat content. But this is going to be in the beta prime structure of crystallization, which is what happened. There are multiple forms of crystallization that can take place. This is one of them. It gives it a greater functionality. You can use this on pans for non-stick. This is what happens whenever you take bacon fat and let it cool off in the fridge. It can be reused. This is not a shelf-stable product, but that is about all I have for you guys today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. I will see you next time.